Here come the boys. Y'all ready to go swimming, baby? Come on. Give it up. Get out of that water. I tried telling y'all, it's swim lessons, baby.
Welcome back to another episode of Swim Lessons. I'm your host, Dallas Hanson. On today's show, I live in the city of Crosby, and it's very important to me. So we had a debate between the two mayors, that's the two people that are looking to become the next mayor of Crosby, and that was Kjell Vassen and James Jacobs. Throughout the podcast, we talked about the importance of rural America and how to keep Crosby alive and well, and just a lot of good questions that are coming into what's happening with this race, if you will, for the mayor of Crosby. And it was really fun. So I appreciate Kjell and James coming on the podcast to talk about it. But before we get to Kjell and James, we got to talk about our sponsors. They make this possible. And first and foremost, let's talk about a great restaurant in Williston. It's River's Edge Bar and Grill. They're known for offering the best happy hour in the town of Williston, providing unbeatable deals in a lively atmosphere. Guests can also enjoy a variety of entertaining activities, including bingo, trivia, and the very popular Name That Tune. Come down to River's Edge for great drinks, great food, and great fun. Next up is the great and powerful Glasso Angus, a proud sponsor of Swim Lessons, the podcast. Glasso Angus is your premier source for registered Black Angus cattle since 1973. Glasso Angus cattle showcase dominance, durability, and docility and are built to thrive on the northern plains. Check them out at Glasso Angus, Glasoe, Angus.com. Next up is the PSP Network. It's game day. Promoting local athletes since day one of their careers. They are right in the heart of baseball and softball season right now. So make sure you check out their schedule of events on their website, psp.network, or on YouTube at PSP Network. Nick Holberg and his team do an amazing job, and we are very appreciative of PSP Network. And here's a place and here's a person that I worked for, and I'm going to look forward to working for him this fall and winter covering football and basketball, and that's Game Day Media. More than a game. Your leader in live video sports coverage in Northwest North Dakota. At Game Day Media, our goal is to expose, support, and promote the best athletes that North Dakota has to offer. Subscribe to our channel at Game Day Media ND on YouTube, or find them on Facebook at Game Day Media. On that Facebook page, they've got schedules, quick links, games, and stats, everything you need if you're a student athlete's parent to check out where your athlete will be performing at, and also make sure you enable those alerts on YouTube. And last but not least is the great and powerful BSN Sports. Since 1972, BSN Sports has helped area students and sports teams look their best as they strive for their goals and dreams. They provide apparel, uniforms, and equipment for teams in nearly every sport. Local service with a national reach, that is BSN Sports. Contact your local BSN Sports representative for more information. BSN Sports is a proud sponsor of Swim Lessons, the podcast. All right, here we go with the great Crosby debate. That is James Jacobs and Kjell Vassen. Hey guys, thanks for coming, Kjell and James. Kjell, since you are acting mayor, we're going to start with you. So just give an introduction of yourself and a little bit of a passage of your life so far.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having us on today, Dallas. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And thanks to James for coming and doing this. So I was kind of hoping the chamber would do their candidate forum that they had done a couple of years ago, but I'd never heard anything. So anyway, yeah, I'm Kjell Vassen. I am now acting mayor due to Troy, the former elected mayor, leaving the city. I guess my story on my life is I was born in Crosby many years ago.
Yeah.
My parents moved away when I was a kid, moved to Williston, and then on to Anchorage, Alaska, where I resided for off and on for about 27 years. Always wanted to get back to North Dakota somehow, but there was never really anything there. And then in about 2012, I got in a relationship with my wife, Erin, and that brought me back to Crosby in 2012.
Yep.
And couldn't be happier to be back here. Great community. Done several things in Crosby since I got here to get to my destination where I'm at now, where I tend on being as an agent at Farmers Union. And in about 2019, there was a council opening. Somebody had to leave again for leaving the city, I believe it was, or maybe it was Alexa taking the job with the city. But put my name in a hat. I think there were 4 or 5 of us that put in, and was chosen by the city council to finish out that term. I did that, and then I ran for city council in the next election, and have served on city council since. And I also am a part of the golf course, the Crosby Country Club board, the St. Luke's Hospital board, and the Divide County Economic Development Council. I've been on the golf course board for about 11 years, EDC for about 10, and fairly new to the hospital board, maybe 4 years on there. So
Okay.
pretty active in the community. I don't see any other way to do it.
Yeah.
In a small town, you got to take things and run with it and try to be involved. So that's what I've tried to do. So
James Jacobs, everybody. James, give us an introduction and kind of a little passage for you.
Sure. And again, thanks for having us on the show, and thanks for Kjell being here. And I'm an implant. I'm originally from Michigan. I did construction for 20 some years. I also worked for Anheuser-Busch for 4 years. That was back in Michigan also. The end of 2011, I moved out here to get into the oil field, and that's how I got here. And originally it was just a temporary layover is what I called it.
Yeah.
But after buying a house here and establishing an oil field service company and stuff myself, I fell in love with the town. It reminded me of home, and I grew up in a small town also. I did go to college for a little while and stuff, and found out that wasn't necessarily for me.
Yeah, no, totally.
Went to a business college for accounting, and I don't want to be inside.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's how I got into construction and stuff like that. But once I was here, started an oil field service company, did that for quite a few years, ended up, had partnered with my brother, and pretty much when I purchased the hardware store, that's when I pretty much gave my half of the company to my brother and stuff, and I used my half of what we had earned to purchase the hardware store.
Yeah.
Other than that, I was on the Prairie Tumbleweeds board for a couple of years. So it's important that our children have things to do and stuff like that. After I was done on the Prairie Tumbleweeds board, I also donated my time. They had a company come in, and we had a lot of volunteers for the board. We replaced the floor inside there and stuff like that. And then they had a company that was going to come in and resurface the floor, and they wanted, I don't know, something like $5,000 for it. And I was like, well, I'll do that. So I did that for nothing. Just donated my time.
Yeah.
And then, but other than that, running the hardware store is a full-time job. I serve in the community every day.
Yeah, no, totally.
My wife tried to talk me into getting into the city council in the last election, and always said I just don't want to do it.
Yeah, here you are going for mayor. I like it.
Finally I had enough. I had enough people say, hey, why don't you try to do something? So here I am.
Well, that's awesome.
Now I'm trying to do something. So.
Before we go any further, I'm going to fix your mic real quick, Kjell.
Okay.
You're going to get a lot of heavy nose breathing.
Yeah, that's okay. We can edit that out.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, guys. Well, thanks for those introductions. A few things. Kjell, we're going to start with you. You mentioned a little bit in your kind of passage of your life, but what else? What else is there that you serve day to day in our community? And what are some responsibilities that you think would make applicable to being the mayor of Crosby?
Okay. Again, I'd kind of mentioned in my brief introduction of myself that I sit on, multiple other boards. And I'll be honest with you, when I first got on city council, I was a little taken aback by the lack of forethought that was going on there. I saw boards such as EDC, where every month there's discussions on housing, bringing businesses to town, finding tradespeople. I mean, across the board, tons of issues that EDC discusses monthly, ongoing. And I got to city council and I didn't hear a lot of talk about where are we heading in the future? How are we going to deal with these issues that are in front of us? It kind of seemed like we just showed up and paid the bills and went through the motions. That's what it felt like to me when I first started on city council. And it was kind of an eye-opener that there wasn't a lot of thought as to how Crosby would progress from where we're at now. So I think my experience on some of these other boards has really opened my eyes to some of the issues that we face as a community going forward. I also, my professional background, I've done quite a few things in my adult life. Loan officer, I worked at Burke Divide for a little while. When I first moved here, I managed the Verizon store that used to be in the basement there. Yep. So it's been, like I said, kind of a progression to where I'm at now. In the loan officer position, I got to understand finance pretty well. In insurance here, it's a whole different look at things. So between my professional career and the variety of things I've done as an adult, and when I was younger in college, in the summer times, I worked oil field construction. I did landscaping. I've kind of covered, I worked in classroom in Anchorage. Mm-hmm. I've covered a pretty wide swath of things. And I just think all those experiences that I've had over the years have kind of led me to this point. I studied political science in college. That was just what I was interested in. And it took me to find something that genuinely interested me to motivate me. And that was what kind of motivated me to study hard and move forward. So just over the years, the experience I've accumulated, I feel like qualifies me to do a good job. Again, my intention was to be a city council member all along. Mayor was never something that I was shooting for. Mm-hmm. So with all that, I just thought, I would read the paper, I would have criticisms, I would complain to people about certain things. And I thought, well, if you're going to complain, if you're going to have opinions on this, go be on the city council and try to do something about it instead of just talking about it in a room. So kind of how I ended up here, the culmination of things. So
James, a question for you that I'm going to ask Kjell as well, but you own a business on Main Street of Crosby. The Main Street is I call it like the heart of a small town, North Dakota. Where do you see Main Street of Crosby moving forward? Because there's a few businesses that are already, you look at Homesteaders and a few other spots that are vacant, not necessarily eyesores right now, but could potentially be that. And how, James, do you plan on, if you become the mayor of Crosby, keeping Main Street alive and well?
Well, that's a good question. So we definitely need to do some more stuff as far as bringing business into town, and seems to be a hard thing to do. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we've encouraged we've helped other businesses grow in town and stuff. The Healthy Cricket, mm-hmm. We basically gave them about a little over $5,000 worth of appliances so they could make their products, so they could.
Hardware Hank did your business.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So, we allowed them to charge with no interest, nothing. And then there's other businesses, other people in town that have started lawn care businesses, stuff like that, that we've also worked with to try to promote people to, do better. So, how do we bring in, then the question is, so how do we bring in more businesses, especially like into the homestead and those aging buildings and stuff. And I've been into the basement of some of those buildings.
Yeah, it's
and
not
stuff,
good.
and it's not a pretty picture. What do you do? Do you take them down? Do you rebuild something new there? That's pretty hard.
Yep.
Even once somebody buys the property and then wants to develop on it, that's going to be a pretty good task for just about anybody who wants to do that. The south side of town, where that project is on the south side of town,
yep.
It'd be really nice to see some new businesses going in there. As far as downtown goes, what do you do? What do you really do?
Yeah.
You can, it's been tried. People have been trying to get more businesses to come into town, and it hasn't seemed to work as well as we'd want it to.
Right.
So, into the future, we definitely need to bring some things in, where Crosby's located and stuff like that. It would be a great place to bring in. It'd be a hard task, probably, but just to try to encourage maybe some crypto miners or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Something new technology for the future that's going to bring in younger people, that's going to bring in those younger families. That's one thing.
Yeah.
But obviously getting our grocery store back.
Right.
That's
number one. Right
number
now,
one.
Yeah.
I've talked to people in different towns, like Columbus. They said once they lost their grocery store, people got used to going out of town, going to Kenmare, going to Minot to get their groceries. And
I guess this is to both of you. Is there something happening July 1st? Is Lindsay taking over, or have you guys heard much? Both of you can answer this. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I haven't heard much on it.
Yeah, I think their intent is to get open July 1st.
Yeah.
Sometime in July, I think you can look at the grocery store reopening.
Boy, what a mess that was. That caused a lot of heartache throughout the whole state. Mohall lost theirs. You were just mentioning Columbus. Newtown lost theirs. Just throughout, everywhere. Just affected more than Crosby. It's insane.
Oh, right. So, and it affected everybody on Main Street.
Yeah.
Every retail shop on Main Street, felt that because people are going out of town. They're going out of town to get their groceries. Well, when they go out of town to get their groceries, hey, I need to get this. I need to
Let's
get this.
swing by Menards. Harbor Hank's arch rival. It's like,
let's stop by Menards. Let's stop by Home Depot. And, even though my tool prices, stuff like that, they're right in line with Home Depot's.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm cheaper.
Yeah.
But, again, people like to do things and get it all done at once.
Yep.
Especially, Sundays or whatever. Hey, we're going to Minot. We're going to go tackle this.
Yeah.
So they go and they get their stuff, and, of course, they even though my prices and Home Depot's prices might be the same, they're still going to save 1% by going to Home Depot because their tax rate in Minot's only 7% versus 8% here.
Right.
Which doesn't seem like a lot. But when it comes down to people trying to budget their money, that 1% makes a little bit of a difference to them,
Kjell, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I want to tailor it a little bit different since you were on city council. There's a bad saying going around the state of North Dakota right now that small towns are getting smaller, big cities are getting bigger. How do you plan on maintaining Crosby to this size right now, maybe a little bit bigger? Because let's be honest, it's tough. People move away once they graduate college. I even did, but I came back. How do you plan on making Crosby suitable for just about anybody and everybody?
Okay, that's a great question. Originally, you had talked about the homestead and the variety marketplace up there.
Yep.
And frankly, we have a lot of buildings, commercial buildings, and residential homes in this town that are sitting, decaying. They're not really serving any kind of purpose whatsoever. There may or may not be people living in them or occupying them with a business. This has been something we've been looking at for some time now on how can we address this issue. To clean up the blight that it is on Main Street or elsewhere. I don't think anybody wants to go buy a new house next to a house that's falling apart.
Right.
Has animals running in and out of it because windows are broken. I mean, there's some really, really troublesome things. So it's kind of a twofold problem we have. If you want to move to Crosby, you need a job. Oh, maybe you want to start a business, whatever it is, but you also need housing. And frankly, we are short on housing right now. If you want to go buy a home that's move-in ready, that's a challenge in the city of Crosby. There's a lot of houses for sale, but most of them are going to require a pretty significant amount of work, just like these buildings on Main Street. Mm-hmm. So for an example, EDC is working currently on a project where the homestead and the variety marketplace would be demolitioned. Frankly, those buildings would be very difficult to remodel and make usable. Probably the best thing you could do with them is demolish them and start from square one. What can we do as a city to encourage people to come in and buy those lots and develop? Really, the biggest thing we can probably do is offer property tax incentives and other incentives. You know, we're pretty fortunate locally with our JDA and other organizations where you can obtain money for interest buy down through our Spirit Fund and JDA. Low interest loans and grants are available. Whatever we can do to encourage people to come here and put these, whether they be homes or businesses, and put them to a productive use. Like I said, we need homes for if you're going to move here as a young family, you need a home to grow up in. And our thought process in the city council, we went through a deal here a few years ago where we were identifying these properties. They were inspected. We are going to go in. They had the opportunity to make the changes that the inspector said needed to be done. The idea being that eventually those homes could be raised and rebuilt for homes that are more suitable to a young family. I think we have a glut of families in this town right now that are growing out of their starter homes. Yeah. And there's nowhere to build up to. So at the end of the day, my simple answer on a long-winded response is we need to invest in our city. If we're not willing to invest in the infrastructure of our own community, why would I, as an outside person, come here and invest in a business or a home or anything if I'm not convinced that the community itself is willing to invest in itself to be viable 30 years down the road? I don't see Crosby shrinking over the next 30 years. I see it growing. I see it growing above the rate of the state. I looked last night, North Dakota grew at like less than 1% in 2023. I know Crosby can grow at a higher percent than that, at a sustained growth. I don't know what that is, 5%, 10%, whatever that number is. Crosby has a lot to offer. Mm-hmm. And I think that through making smart policy decisions on these old dilapidated buildings and offering incentives to people to come here, that we can continue that growth forward.
James, your rebuttal?
Well, infrastructure is important. So how we go about that, is also important. Raising rates on basically the entire community to pay for phase one of a project. Okay. But then when phase two of the project needs to be done, where's that money going to come from? Is that money going to be more raised rates? And then it's also been identified that the southwest side of town is just as old as those two parts of town. And they, speculate that that's probably going to be addressed and have to be addressed in 10 years. Where does that money come from? So if we don't have the money for the first project or we come up with a plan to raise people's rates to pay for the project, where's the next rate hike's going to come? And then people don't necessarily want programs to help them. They want just to be able to live without extra programs.
Okay.
It's, and then, we should do something about infrastructure. We know that there are existing problems, and those existing problems should be addressed first before we start a new project. I mean, we have a project on the south side of town that hasn't really went anywhere. And
You talking about where the lights are and stuff by New Century?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
So, I mean, that project's more than 10 years old, and all we have out there right now is just farm credit services.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be nice to, get other things in there, even if it was other businesses or something. Without more business, it's kind of hard to bring more people to town because there's not enough jobs for them. Mm-hmm.
Well, before we get too far in the weeds on the current project that you guys are talking about, some people like myself who are middle-aged don't necessarily understand everything like that. And that's why I wanted to have you two in today and get to know you a little bit. So let's not get too far in the weeds with that. But right now I want to ask we will talk about that. We will talk about the construction plans, but I want to, James, we'll go back to you. You were just talking about you believe in the growth of Crosby. Right now, people that read the paper, everything, there seems to be a little bit of a lack of a vision overall for the city of Crosby. What is your true vision in 2 or 3 sentences of Crosby?
Well, it'd be nice to bring in new business.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting new business here, period, to create more jobs, to, make the economy better. More, even if it's, it'd be nice to be able to get like farm equipment here, back here,
mm-hmm.
Anything like that. Even if it was somebody selling used cars. Yeah. That'd be great too. Something that's going to bring more tax dollars into town, because as it sits, I mean, so with the sales tax, we need more sales tax. So we need more sales in general. Not necessarily with me, but, anybody, whether it's tires or whatever it is, cause there's quite a few businesses here that don't generate any tax dollars,
right.
No sales tax whatsoever. So it's like, okay, well, we need those tax dollars. So how do we do that? How do we get, more businesses, into town that's going to bring in more tax revenue for the city, for infrastructure projects, for, all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. If we can bring in more jobs, then yeah, we can attract more people. And, Crosby being in a place that it is, and some of these homes that are for sale, yeah, they need some work, but, Crosby's a great place for somebody from out of town to buy a house. And yeah, that house might need some work, but comparatively speaking, where they come from, prices on housing is astronomical.
Right.
I mean, there's been quite a few people that have moved to town that have sold their houses in other states, moved here, bought an older home, put some money into it, fixed it up, and now it's nice again.
Yep.
But it makes it so it's affordable for people to actually come here because they can sell a house in Florida, move here, buy a house, fix it up a little bit, turn around, sell that house, buy another house and sell the one that they had before.
Right.
And, there's been, just several people that I know of that have moved from out of town because houses were cheap here.
Right.
And they're like, wow,
Yeah.
this house would have cost me $200,000 somewhere else.
Yeah. No, I got you. Kjell, your clear-cut vision for Crosby in the future.
At the end of the day, Crosby is a safe, clean, friendly community with a ton of upside for the future. I mean, I think people come here because the cost of living is low comparatively, especially on housing, like James was saying. So when they get here, they see how safe it is. They see how friendly people are. They see how community-oriented people are. And it's a very attractive place. The question really is, how do we promote getting those businesses here? Again, it's great to say we want business to come here. But if we're not, I'm going to go back to reinvesting in our own community. If we're not investing in our community, why would I come from outside and invest in a community that's unwilling to invest in itself? At the end of the day, we have to have plans in effect that can get people here, motivate them to build new or remodel or whatever it might be. And there are things we can do, again, through property tax breaks, through grant funds, through low interest loans. We have a variety of options available. But my vision for Crosby is, again, Crosby is a growing community. It's not a shrinking community. I think overall, if you look across the state of North Dakota, and like you said, some towns are shrinking, some cities are growing. We are in a unique spot up here where we get just enough of the oil field to sustain people's incomes and things like that without getting that unsustainable growth. So I think we've been able to grow at a nice pace, and I think we can continue to do it. But at the bottom line at the end of the day is we have to be proactive. We have to be working on solutions for the future.
Perfect. This is a question for both of you. We'll start with Kjell. Kjell, do you support the petition going around the state proposing the elimination of property taxes? If so, how would you propose raising revenue for local politician subdivisions?
No, I do not support it in any form whatsoever. I think it's fiscally irresponsible. I don't understand where that side is thinking that communities are going to be able to fund themselves, especially when you get outside of Northwest and Southwest North Dakota away from, we're fortunate up here. Our oil and gas revenues sustain us. They have carried us up to this point, and they're going to continue to carry us. That being said, you take out the property tax part, where is that revenue going to come from? It's not going to come from sales tax. It's not going to come from anywhere else. Where is it going to come from? It's going to have to look something like a fee-based system. You want the fire department to come put out a fire at your house? Pay the fee. You want a police station? Pay the fee. No, in no way do I support that. I think it's completely irresponsible. I think you put it on the ballot and people say, oh, if they're not informed on it, it sounds great. I don't want to pay property taxes. Well, of course, the lure is there not to have to pay property taxes. I get that. But at the end of the day, how are we going to fund essential services for the people in North Dakota without instituting things like fee-based services? I don't think that's a direction we want to go. I don't think we want to solely rely on oil and gas. I grew up in Alaska for the second half of my life, a state that's highly dependent on oil. And I've seen what happened there when oil starts to go down. I mean, you lose a lot of those essential services that government provides. You have to have a wide base of revenue to fuel your communities. And taking away one of the biggest pieces of the pie is, in my opinion, a terrible idea.
James, your rebuttal?
No, I agree with him 100%. It'd be an absolute mistake.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if that happens, where's the money going to come from to run our fire departments and our police stations and, stuff like that? If that happens, what's the first thing they might, it's possible that the first thing they could take is our oil and gas revenue.
Yeah.
And then, then the state gets to figure out where they're going to distribute it and who's going to get that. It's probably the majority population based places. And, it would absolutely it would hurt North Dakota.
James, to keep it with you, I took a few comments from social media, and this one's kind of against your running. And Kjell, I'm going to bring one up that's against your running. But James, this is from a farmer who doesn't live in Crosby, but he lives close. And this is what he wrote. One of my greatest passions in life is the future prosperity of rural America and Divide County. Specifically, Divide County is a special place, and its future growth should be a concern to all of us who call it home today. In order for Divide County to be a go-to place, raise a family, earn a living, and enjoy the prairies of North Dakota, we need a strong, welcoming hub city like Crosby to thrive. This takes planning, foresight, and a level of risk. First things, no, I don't live in Crosby. No, I don't pay a water or sewer bill in Crosby, but I do have a great interest in the future of Crosby. It is my opinion that we need to start investing in future infrastructure of Crosby if it is going to survive, prosper, and continue to be our hub city. We need infrastructure that meets the needs of all. This includes my generation, my parents' generation, my kids' generation, and hopefully one day my great-grandkids' generation. We need infrastructure that is welcome, robust, to attract and to retrain top-level labor and management talent. The opportunities are vast here, so we are unfortunate. With that, there are no free rides in life. If the future of our rural community is important to you, please join me on June 3rd to show your support for the future of Crosby and its residents by attending the city council meeting. I hope to one day be soon through an investment to get the opportunity to help pay for these needed improvements, talking about the Hendrickson pipeline. So your thoughts when you read that, you hear that?
Well, obviously I do believe Crosby's a great place. And if I didn't believe in it, I wouldn't have bought the hardware store.
Right.
So, I'm just saying that we need a better plan. The plan needs to address existing issues that I've been informed. Many people have told me that there's different water lines, this and that, sewer lines. The engineers have even scoped out, different areas that need to be addressed and whatnot. The first phase of the project isn't, most of those people over there aren't really complaining about it. There's approximately 17 homes over there. 14 of them are lived in. Let's say there's an average of 3 people per household. That would only be about 42 people, which is less than 4% of the population. So, to raise water and sewer rates on the rest of town to pay for that, I've had a lot of people say, hey, when they redid my street, I had to pay for my own stuff. Mm-hmm. There was a special assessment for my street. There was a special, I've had several people tell me that. So, so a lot of people are like, why are we paying for this? Nobody helped us pay for ours. So, I believe that we need to fix what we know is wrong first before we just start tearing up streets for 4% of the population.
Okay, Kjell, here is someone that commented back on that post I just read. I do support the future mindset making as a longtime resident and plan to always be, but I truly hope the city council and mayor find an educated and financially smart decision on this. Some members need to open their ears to the people of the city and stop playing puppets to the engineers as the members that do work for us city residents. We pay their monthly stipend. Maybe ask the city about the petition with multiple pages of signatures of residents opposed to this. Your thoughts on this? If it isn't broke, don't fix it. And how would you combat that comment?
Okay, perfect. First of all, this project has been in the works for 4.5 years.
Really?
4.5 years.
I didn't know that.
4.5 years.
Okay.
Since I've been on city council, this project has been in front of us. It is an extremely long lead up to get something like this done. I have 100% confidence in our engineers. Part of the scoping James talked about was up on the Hendrickson homes. It is pipe that is 70 years old, at least. Water and sewer pipe laying next to each other in a ditch with open cracks on both of them. You tell me.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, 70-year-old pipe has to be repaired, period. That's just the bottom line. This is not going to last forever. When I first got on city council, I don't remember what year it was, the mayor at that time turned to me and said, "We don't even have any problems up there right now." And I said, "Well, we're not going to have a problem until we have a problem."
Mm-hmm.
When is that problem going to occur? Is it going to occur in February, January, whatever? I don't know. At the end of the day, on this project individually, we have 4.5 years worth of research into this project. We have an opportunity, and I agree with James. I don't think it makes sense to do just phase one. I'm a proponent of doing phase one and phase two. Phase one has to be done first. That has to be done first. Phase two is the second logical part of it. To the point where people say, and this is a popular thing that people have been coming to meetings, and I want people to understand, we are listening to them. The petition that person mentioned was a petition against special assessments. It wasn't a petition against the project. Mm-hmm. It was a petition against special assessments. As James said, it's a lightly populated part of town. That doesn't mean that it can't be populated in the future with future development. If you add in phase two, there's quite a few more homes and even more lots. Okay. What better place to come and build new homes, renovate old homes, than a place with brand new water and sewer? You tell me. I can't think of a better scenario. Now, that being said, we have a lot of money in the bank for a small city. These people who show up and say, "We can't afford this," I'm always really curious. How do you know? Have you looked at the financials of the city? Have you looked at what we have on the table? And my gut feeling is they have not. We stand to get between $5 and $6 million, interest-free, no loan. It's grant money. It's money that we're given by the state to subsidize this project. The remainder of it, we are going to finance at 2% for 30 years. You are not going to find a better deal from a lending standpoint on this. Could it be available in 5 years? Like some people like to say, well, let's just kick it down let's wait a few years and see what happens and do some spot fixes, which I understand what they're saying. But there's no guarantee this money is going to be there. We've been in this process of trying to obtain this money for quite a few years, and we finally made it to third on the list where we've qualified for this much money. If we walk away just doing phase one, we leave half that money on the table. If we walk away without doing either of the phases, we lose it all.
So essentially, yeah, if you don't take it now, you lose it.
It's gone.
Okay.
Could it be there in 5 years? Maybe. But I know it's there now. We had a meeting with the Public Finance Authority last week. That's who is the banker on this deal.
What did he say?
She said,
or she?
We're in great position. We sent this out to other council members to listen. Other communities in North Dakota are doing these things. They may not have oil and gas revenue. They're doing it other ways. We are in a unique position. We have like $5 million, $4 million in the bank. We have some in CDs. As a city, we have a lot of money comparatively to other cities our size in the state of North Dakota. We are not broke. The future is not bleak. To me, there's not a better time to do this. And if somebody took the time to sit down and look at it, they would understand that pretty quickly, I think. I get the scary part of it. Mm-hmm. I get it. But to me, the most irresponsible thing we could do here is nothing. Phase one, I can live with. Phase 1 and 2 is my preference. We have it all lined out. We put a lot of work into this. Again, 4.5 years. Over that 4.5 years, the city council has directed our engineers to advance 13 different times. 13 different motions we've passed to get to this point over 4.5 years. So this is not a spur of the moment, throw it together thing like some people have said. It's been well thought out. The people on city council that are in favor of this and the people that are opposed to it are doing what they think is right based on the information they have. Nobody is trying to do something to the detriment of the city of Crosby. There may be differing opinions on how to do it or not do it, but I don't think anybody is doing what they're doing hoping for the detriment. I think we all love Crosby.
Oh, yeah.
So.
right. Yeah.
James,
nobody would think
yeah,
it was
nobody
for the detriment, but
James, your rebuttal on Kjell.
Well, I understand it's been 4.5 years. During COVID, the engineering company wasn't even working on it. So there's a certain period of time there, about a year and a half, where they weren't even really doing anything in town because of COVID and everything.
Okay.
But I know that in the last 16, 17 months, the engineering firm has pulled about $1.2 million out of town. Could the town have hired its own civil engineer and saved some money? And civil engineers do road projects and water projects and sewer projects. I know during COVID, the city saved a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it's just, that's why people have the idea that, or feel like the engineering firm is pulling this money out of town. They're not really spending it in town, So, when those tax dollars leave town, people are like, hey, what do we got to show for it? We got some pretty maps and, we got some scoping and stuff like that. But, $1.2 million in 16, 17 months, that's a lot of money. How much of that could have been used for, trying to bring more business into town or creating, something.
Not to interrupt you, James, but if we don't look at that, who will look at it?
What's that?
If we don't look at like kind of infrastructure and do input with engineers,
sure.
What would be your plan as mayor with that? Not to interrupt you.
Well, obviously they have done some, some work, and we've gotten a lot of good information out of it for sure. Infrastructure, we do need to do it. It does need to be handled. But is it to the point where we just keep taxing the citizens of the town, more and more to pay for projects like this? Are these projects, are these grants going to be available down the road? Like he said, we don't know. They could be, it might not be. But it's, how do we save any money when the engineering firm is pulling most of that money out of town already? So, yeah.
Kjell, I see you shaking your head.
Yeah, I gotta jump in here. First of all, on a project like this, your engineering costs are going to be the upfront part of it, the design, the planning, the whole thing, right? So our engineering costs, yes, they're upfront. I don't know for sure, but we've also had sidewalk projects. We've had a lot of things that the engineers have done. They've been great. A community the size of Crosby the city of Williston has an engineering department. They have multiple engineers that work in it. They have planners. They have the whole deal. That's not Crosby. We don't have the ability to have an engineering department. We rely, just like the city of Ray relies on interstate engineering, which provides us with a huge scope of things. outside of the engineering. We use them for planning, talking about ordinances. James talks about South Ridge Acres. We're talking right now about some rural residential lots over there with the help of Interstate. We don't have the expertise within the city to do these things. At the end of the day, we have to hire an engineering firm. At the end of the day, we're going to hire the best engineering firm possible. First, Interstate came on. I don't know for sure it was before I got on city council, but there was an engineering firm before that that was working on things, and they were replaced by Interstate. It's a competitive game. I know Interstate's goal is to have a long-term relationship with Crosby. They want to do business with us for 20, 30, 40 years. And to do that, they have to treat us fairly and do what's in the best interest of our community. They're not here for a quick cash grab on this project. And anyone who suggests otherwise is misinformed. They want a long-term, just like James wants a long-term relationship with his customers, just like I want a long-term relationship with my customers. Interstate's no different. They charge competitive rates, just like any other engineering firm would charge. Could we maybe get one a little cheaper? Maybe. Are there that more expensive? Sure. But those are things we have to look at every couple of years to see where they're at and how they've served us. And up until now, they've served us very well. They offer us a wide variety of expertise on multiple subjects. And it costs money. Just like attorneys cost money, just like any professional service costs money. And as a city our size, we just can't manage an in-house engineering firm or a civil engineer to handle a scope. It takes a team to do these kind of projects.
Right.
So I'm perfectly happy. I'll go on the record and say I think Interstate's done a great job. Of course, there's always things we can clean up down the road. We can try to cut costs where we want. But at the end of the day, this is an expensive project. It's not going to get cheaper. And I'm happy with the engineers we have on it right now. I'm not looking for a budget-friendly engineering company that's going to come in and have cut rates and whatever. I don't think that's a good way to do business, even to market yourself.
Yeah.
I want people who are professional and going to do the job right. And I have confidence that the experts in the area are giving us the right information because it behooves them to do so to continue to do business with us over a long term, which would be smart business. It would not be smart business to try to just come in here and get a quick buck off this project and then cut and run. That's not their intention, I don't believe.
Here's a question, James, and then Kjell, we'll go to you. And this is from a community member that wrote into me. It says, with 2 positions on city council, alderman and mayor, currently filled by appointment, and being the council is split on the infrastructure project on the north end, would it be perhaps best to wait till after the election to vote? James, your thoughts initially on that?
Well, I guess it wouldn't be a horrible idea, but, so this project's got a September start. And as we all know where we're at, I mean, it's going to get cold in about a month or 2 after that. So, it just seems to me like it might be a little bit better off if you were going to do the project to bid it so it was an April start or a May start, because it's going to take time to get stuff here, obviously. And then being that the project's going to take a couple of years to do, it seems like it'd be just a little bit better off just to start it in the spring versus a late fall start. Mm-hmm. Before the election, if it gets pushed through before the election, and then who knows what's going to happen in the election? I don't know. He doesn't know.
Yeah.
It's, either way, it's going to be okay, let's get this figured out one way or another.
So you don't want them to, you want to wait till after, like either of you win mayor to vote? Is that what you're saying, or what exactly?
Well, I understand that time is so the bid's only good until June 4th.
Right.
So, otherwise it's got to be rebid. So, I can understand, this current city council's, they got to make a decision one way or another.
Right.
It's, and that'd be a tough decision one way or either way.
Mm-hmm.
But funding and stuff like that, the engineers have made it clear that, hey, if we got time is of the essence, and if we don't do something about it, well, it's going to be, make things harder down the road. So, there's really no good answer to that. You either,
yeah,
it's going to be something either way.
Kjell, your rebuttal or your answer to that question? Do you want me to reread it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, go ahead.
Okay.
I just want to make sure.
With 2 positions on city council currently filled by appointment, and being the council is split on the infrastructure project on the north end, would it perhaps be best to wait until the city election to vote on it?
Okay. So yeah, like James said, the bid is only good till the 4th.
Mm-hmm.
We should have taken action at our April meeting, our May meeting. That it should have been handled then. Again, one of the most frustrating things I've seen on city council since I got on is this tendency to kick things down the road. Why do people kick things down the road? Because it's easy. It's the easy button. We'll deal with it next month. We'll deal with it next year. We'll deal with it 5 years from now. And that's, in my opinion, all we did at that meeting was kick yet another thing down the road. So the short, easy answer is no, we should not wait. Time is of the essence, and now is the time to act, not later. Now, in response specifically to the people who are appointed versus elected, I was elected as city councilman however many years ago. I'm an elected official. Mm-hmm. I was then elected essentially by the city council to be acting mayor. Some of them elected, some of them also were appointed. But even when you're appointed, we are just following North Dakota Century Code. You are being elected by elected representatives. When I came on city council, I was voted originally by other city council members to fill a spot until the next election. And that's just how it works. At the end of the day, elections are their great equalizer. If people are making decisions you disagree with, you don't vote for them.
Right.
If they're making decisions you agree with, you vote for them. People have that opportunity on June 11th to make that decision. If people are adamantly opposed to this project, I don't suspect they will vote for me if they're that adamant about it. And that's okay, because I'm simply doing what I think is right for the city of Crosby.
This is the hill you're going to die on, essentially.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's now we move forward. And if people are that opposed to it, maybe I'm misreading the room and maybe I'll get trounced on June 11th. I have no idea. I hear from people who are in favor of the project. I hear from people who are opposed to the project. Like anything, I think you tend to hear from the people who are against things a little more frequently. They're going to show up and they're going to show the passion. But I talk to people all the time who are in favor of this project. People I respect, people who will come up to you on the street and say, hey, thank you. I think you're doing the right thing here. They may not show up at a city council meeting and say it, but yeah, essentially you're right, Dallas. It's a hill I'm willing to die on. The elected, non-elected, it's been a comment that people have made. I don't think it holds much water because we're just following the Century Code and how to fill positions. Why are we losing people? We're losing them because they're moving to the country. Why? Because there isn't homes available in Crosby. Every time we lose somebody to the country, it's bad for the city of Crosby. You look around the city of Crosby and there's a lot of people who are very capable who we can't use on city boards and city commissions, and because they don't live in Crosby because there was no housing, so they moved to the country. You want to talk about expensive. You want to talk about infrastructure. Move to the country. Get water. Get rural water piped in. Get electricity piped in. You want to talk about expense? Let's talk about expense. Living in a community has costs. That's why it's a community, is because we communally pay for those costs that government provides. That is a community. You move to the country, you pay for it on your own.
Yep.
Talk to some people who have got water, rural water put in. Ask them what their bill was.
Oh, yeah.
Ask them what their bill was to get 3-phase electricity to their house.
Well, no, that's
Pretty expensive.
I didn't mean that in a negative way, like
Yeah,
you're
no.
going to die. But
No, I get you.
Kudos to both of you for running for mayor. I know it takes some big kahunas, if you will. So, and then you're my friend, and I appreciate you doing this. But there's what I feel is, and it's been a lifelong dream of mine. As you know, I came up with the DC Classic for my late friend Justin. And it's been a lifelong dream of mine to build a true community center, if you will, a place where, as you know, girls and boys basketball seasons go hand in hand. Gym space is very hard to come by. When I was coaching, sometimes we either had to practice at 5 a.m. or 7:30 at night. For young kids in high school, that's very hard to do. A dream I have is to build a gym, but not only a gym. The winters here in Crosby are very long. They're very long. And like my mom, she had knee surgery this past winter. Their doctor said, hey, go to a walking track. She goes, well, I live in Crosby. There's no walking track. And he didn't want her walking on a treadmill because that's a little unstable when you have knee surgery. So I think there's room for walking tracks. And also, and I know you've served on the board at the Prairie Tumbleweeds thing, not taking anything away from them, but essentially also a fitness center to go hand in hand with that. And ways you could pay for the gym is with the fitness center dues, stuff like that. And also, I think just to open it up would be like kind of something fun for people. And I know golfing is big, so like a golf simulator. So kind of an all 3-in-1 true community center. What are your thoughts on bringing something like that in? Because we talked a lot at the beginning of this when people leave town to go to like a trampoline center. Like I know a lot of young people do that. Or to go down to Williston to their rec center where there's a pool and stuff involved. Would you guys be open, and James, we'll start with you, would you guys be open to an idea like that to kind of keep families involved? And in the winter months, it's so still, and I hate this part of Crosby, but it's like either you leave and go to Arizona or you go to the bar. There's not much else to do during the winter. It's just the fact. And sure. I feel that's a big need in Crosby right now. And what are your thoughts on that, and how would you decide something like that if elected mayor?
Well, I mean, of course, there's other issues that have to be addressed, infrastructure, stuff like that. But, community center idea is great.
And I know, sorry to interrupt you, but I know the hockey rink has a great community center,
mm-hmm.
not taking away anything of what they've done. But what I'm talking about is like a true everybody welcome. Yeah.
It'd be nice to expand onto that,
mm-hmm.
Our community pool. I mean, I know it was just recently redone.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been, I think, in my opinion, it would have been a lot better if that would have been incorporated with that. That way it would, could have been used year round, could have been used for physical therapy, stuff like that, and then obviously it would have helped the community center. It would have helped community because there would have been more things for the kids to do, the adults to do, everything from, swim lessons.
Yeah, there you go. Shout out to the podcast. Yeah, good point, James. Point James. No,
but I mean that'd be great.
Yeah.
I do know that some people do walk over here at Prairie Tumbleweeds and stuff. It's a very small place, but I've also seen people up at the community center walking down there.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, town needs more for people to do,
mm-hmm.
for, the adults to do, for kids to do, a golf simulator, that'd be great. Anything that would engage the community and bring more people into town. That way they have, because when we have these big hockey tournaments and stuff
sure.
like that, that's one thing we're lacking,
mm-hmm.
Is other entertainment for people to do.
Yeah.
So, it'd be great. I think it's a great idea just to be able to have something like that. And
sure.
if we could implement it, that'd be even better.
Okay. Well, that's good news. Kjell, your thoughts on a potential spot like that?
Well, the park board came up with a pretty, and it was a grandiose kind of plan for a community center that they put out as more of a, let's get a conversation started.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy Lund was a big proponent of.
Oh yeah, I remember.
She was amazing on the park board.
She was.
The things she did were unbelievable. She should be commended over and over and over again for her work for this community. I want to give Tracy a shout out.
Yeah.
The community center, the hockey rink, the curling rink, what we have up there, I think is a perfect model for what could be done for another community center with different functions. Mm-hmm. Originally there was a phase 2 up there. There was a phase 3 up there, an indoor pool, a gymnastics center. That was all part of it. Quickly it was realized, I think, that was not necessarily going to be feasible at that time. I went up to the Blue Line Club's, they had a supper event to celebrate the 10-year opening of the building here a couple months ago. What they did there was unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it was.
Unbelievable. The amount of volunteer labor that was put into that, the amount of dollars that were raised by boosters of the program, people who had nothing to do with hockey, some people who had a lot to do with hockey. But at the end of the day, they marshaled as much public backing as they could, financially and labor-wise. I mean, the amount of work they did was unbelievable. They didn't come out and just rely on other people to do it for them. They took it into their own hands and they really made it happen. It was really inspirational. And if anybody wants to know about how they could go forward with moving something like this, they should talk to the people who did that. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot to be learned. I mean, I really enjoyed the presentation they gave. That was kind of right when I moved here. And I come from a bigger place where things always just kind of get done in a bigger city, right? They build a rink, they build a community center, they put in pipeline, mm-hmm. they do these things, and you don't really get a lot of input on it. It just kind of happens.
More tax dollars.
Bigger base. I mean, it's bigger
base.
base. It's a totally different thing. We'd love to have a lot of things in Crosby that just aren't feasible.
Be nice to have car dealerships back.
Yeah. Pretty much.
If there's money to be made, somebody will do it.
Yeah.
But on something like this, I think there is room in Crosby for something like this. In fact, this is another EDC project. We had an engineering firm up here about 3 weeks ago. To do a walkthrough of the old nursing home, to do a feasibility study. Is this building useful going forward? What parts of it? How can we rebuild this? What can be reused? What would fit well? And that would be something right there. Again, that's where the park board had talked about this new community center. I think there are ways we could do this. It's going to require a lot of community participation. Mm-hmm. It's going to require groups like the EDC working hand in hand with city government, county government. It's going to take a hands-on, everybody on board to make it happen. And I think it would be great to have an indoor track. I think it would be great to have another auxiliary basketball court, a community, whether the Prairie Tumbleweeds would want to move in there. I think there's a lot of possibilities. Yeah. A golf simulator, single family housing and part of it. We have to be inventive because, again, we can't have a bunch of different things. It has to be kind of almost like that strip mall, mini mall, where we're putting everything together to keep costs as low as possible. Because ultimately, we just can't. We can't have everything we want to have here with the resources we have available. But I think with everybody working together and doing something, I think we could absolutely do something like that. And we're also very fortunate. We have this Andrist. Yeah. The Andrists have been great to our community, and they're always looking for big ideas. Well, this is a big idea. Yeah. So the funding's always there. We have a very giving community with their money, their labor, their time. And I have no doubt we could do something like that going forward. It's going to require people to work together and, at the end of the day, sacrifice. Yep. They sacrifice their dollars, their time, and their energy. These things don't happen in small communities on their own. like
No,
they do in bigger communities.
That's spot on. And I mean, both you guys are, your guys' businesses are sponsor of the DC Classic, but my big grand theme is to have like a 40-team tournament come to Crosby, which would be big for the local economy, as well as, make it like a tennis court. It doesn't always have to be a basketball court. Volleyball can go practice in there, whatever. I just think it's a big loss that we're not taking advantage of, and we wonder why kids are staying at home, and you don't see many kids riding bike, you don't see many kids outside playing hockey, shooting around, whatever it might be. But if you had a spot like that where they could all come get together, I think it would be amazing. I think it would be big. And I talked to Levi Andrist, who's the head of the Andrist Fund, and I brought him up this idea because I've been doing the Classic for 12 years now, and I was like, hey, here's what I want to do. And he's like, well, apply for a 501(c), blah, blah, blah. So we did that. So the wheels are moving, just so you guys know. So whoever gets elected, we'll be talking. But believe it or not, we've been going at this for a little over an hour. I would like some closing remarks. Kjell, we started with you. So James, we'll start with the closing remarks with you. Closing remarks on your mayor and what you want, and just kind of something to sum it all up in one paragraph.
Okay, well, I guess I absolutely want to do what's best for the community. As I said, I own a business here. It's, I want to see this town get bigger. I want to see this town thrive, and how to get there exactly, I'm not sure. But my experience in construction, you need a good solid foundation to start with, and then you can build a nice straight house from there.
Yeah.
So it's, I guess I'm at a loss of words, really.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking for a while. That's not a big deal. Kjell, your closing remarks.
Yeah, I just I'll just say I'm a big believer in Crosby. It's been a part. I was born here. I lived away for a long time, but we were back every summer. I've watched Crosby ebb and flow over the years, to shrinking, to growing, to shrinking, to growing. I know there are far more positives about our community than there are negatives, and I think there's a bright future. But at the end of the day, I think now is the time for us to start moving things forward. Again, this infrastructure project is just symbolic of where we're at now. For many, many years, like I said, when I first got on city council, it was just kind of like we were going through the motions. There wasn't a lot of forethought. I think I've mentioned EDC here about 4 different times on different things. There are people out there that are actively looking at how can we get tradespeople? How can we get a gym? How can we get rid of blighted buildings? And I want to bring that conversation to city council and work collaboratively with those groups, because that's the way we have to get things done. There is no one easy button answer. It's a collective effort, and we have to be able to work together with these organizations, the county, the city, all these other things. We got to come up with ways where we can make your 40-team tournament happen. You look at just when you bring it in, the people that come in for that weekend. You look at the threshing bee, when that, the more of those kind of things we can do, and people come to Crosby, they come to the golf course, to our golf tournaments, and they say, wow, this is unbelievable. You guys have the great golf course. Well, now if we have a great gym, if we have all these things, that just makes Crosby more appealing to live, to do business. I own a business in town too. I need Crosby to continue to grow, just like everyone does. And, at the end of the day, somebody said something to me one time, if you're not growing, you're dying. Mm-hmm. I don't think 30 years ago, the people who were running Columbus, for example, thought, man, in 30 years, we could have gravel streets and turn our roads over to the county.
Yeah. Oof.
But that's where they're at,
Yeah.
because they're not growing. There is no staying in neutral. Mm-hmm. You're either growing or you're dying, as a community, as a business, as a human being. And we only have one choice, and that's to move forward. And that's kind of my philosophy. I have 100% faith that we can do that. We just need the leadership and the ability to work collaboratively with others to make that happen. And I think I'm well qualified to do that.
Well, listen, I wish you both could win. I really like both you guys, and make sure everybody listening, you get out and vote. But it's what, June
11th.
June 11th is the vote date. So everybody get out and vote. James, Kjell, you guys are awesome. Appreciate you coming here to the studio today and doing
thanks,
this.
Dallas.
And
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, wish you guys both the best of luck, and long live Crosby.
All right,
Long live
thanks.
Crosby.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.